Anybody else? Okay, next one. William Anderson. Is that the guy they call Turkey? Okay, Turkey Anderson. Now I know some of these aren't as well known as
Turkey, or William, he was just a mess, in a good way.
and you told me that, and I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
he just, he liked to have fun at all costs. He just out here, I'm gonna have fun, y'all do what you want to, but I'm gonna enjoy life. Y'all think that too, some of you guys in here? Just
Turkey got sent home from our senior trip.
Yes, he did.
Man, I don't remember
I
that.
got in the elevator, and in the elevator was he and two of our teacher chaperones, and he was being taken, I guess, to the bus station or something. He got in trouble.
But before that, he opened his, or somebody opened his suitcase and a bottle of whiskey.
That may have been why he got sent home. It was so funny. It didn't bother him.
That sounds like Charlie. That was Charlie was.
It didn't bother him.
Okay. Anybody else?
Turkey packed in his suitcase for the senior trip, a change of underwear, and the rest of it was whiskey bottles.
So you weren't surprised that he got to go.
Anybody else? We're no hurry. Okay, Matt Barber. Anybody? Matt? I know a lot of people want to talk about Matt. I do. Go ahead.
I knew Matthew from early days. Some background. My mother was reared in the South, just around Natchez. I'm not sure where his mother was from, but they were roommates at Ole Miss. And then years later, they end up in this little town together. And of course, he and I were playing together as young kids. And he was he was a great guy. I visited him at his house. We rode his horse. Star was his horse's name. And yeah, he was a really nice fellow. Miss him.
Okay. Who else?
I remember his gentle ways. He was very gentle. Soft-spoken, but he wasn't shy. He played football, I think.
Yeah,
But
he did.
he was very gentle.
Anybody else?
Matt, we came to the house. I don't remember what we had, but you were there, Dorothy was there. We had spaghetti. It was like a little mini reunion. And Mac he was a truck driver. And I could not picture Mac being a truck driver.
You remember he used to send us emails from all over the country. I'm in Lower Alabama. I'm in LA. You remember that? Bevo, do you want to say something about Mac?
I just want to ask, does anybody remember a party at Mackey's house? I was sitting here. Do you?
I wasn't invited, but
Nobody was there, is that right? That's the first time I remember hearing certain things about Yazoo City. I wasn't invited. If you were there, at least have the courage to raise your hand right now. I can't believe it. 35-hour class and nobody attended.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I just remember that soon before he passed away, there was the nicest article in the Greenwood Commonwealth about him and this house that he had bought in Winona and was restoring. And I had just thought, we're going to go out there one day. And then he passed away soon after that.
Okay, anybody else?
I remember, I think we even had all of our children, but Maggie was working at a fish house.
It was just a regular restaurant out on Lakeland.
At a restaurant on Lakeland, and we had our children with us. But he did that for years, and we used to always enjoy him. And we always talked. So, and I can't remember the restaurant.
That's all I remember.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of going to his funeral. And he had been my boyfriend in 5th grade. Did anybody else have a boyfriend?
He wasn't my boyfriend, but anyway.
Anyway, I learned some things about Maggie. First of all, he sang in Christ Alone, and that's what I remember. It was the first time I'd ever heard it sung in a whole group, and it was just beautiful. Everybody was singing. And I remember the testimonials in the community without even being asked. He would mow people's lawns. Did y'all know this, Matt? I didn't know Matthew like that, but it was so dear that his, I mean, I bet they were still talking about him one of them. Things he did without wanting any recognition.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mac Lee trained me how to put rocks inside a mud ball. Get up on top of the hill where 49 came by and throw rocks at the trucks.
I can't wait, well, I don't, I'm not saying it to be ugly. But when Scrapper's gone, have I got some stories to tell you guys? I mean, this won't take all afternoon. Anybody else about Mac? Yeah, Lloyd.
Was after the midnight till dawn, did we not have a party out at their place? At
We
his
did.
house one time?
I don't know.
Does anybody remember?
Yeah, they had breakfast out there
Yeah,
after
breakfast.
the party.
They did. I'll let that one.
I don't know.
Not the first one. Oh, wasn't it?
No.
I don't think this is the same party that everybody else is.
Forgot.
I want to share a quick story about Mackie. When we were, I think freshmen in college, and we came home over Christmas break, we decided, a bunch of the football team decided we're going to get together and play touch football. And we did it on Coach Jenkins' field. And it was raining and muddy, and if Coach Jenkins had known that, we would none of us be alive today, I promise you. He would not have liked us out there tearing up his football field. I'm pretty sure Les was there, Bob Shirley was there, Mackie was there, Gerald was there, but Gerald couldn't play. Now you think about big old Gerald, he said the Boston Red Sox wouldn't let him play. Scared he'd get hurt. We're going to hurt Gerald, right? Anyway, you remember anybody else? Les? I don't. There were other people. I think Jesse maybe.
Scrapper was there.
I'm sorry.
Scrapper.
No. Okay. We had a good crowd. Anyway, we got through playing. We got through playing football. We were muddy from head to toe because we slid on the ground and we were just wet and cold. And Mackie said, "Hey, why don't you guys come to my house and go swimming?" And I said, "You got to be kidding! I'm freezing to death. It's cold. I'm muddy." He said, "I got an indoor pool." Oh, okay. And then somebody said, "We don't have any trunks." No problem, we got plenty of trunks. So there were 6 or 8 or 10 of us. We all went up there, and back then you didn't have a cell phone. So Mrs. Barber, I'm sure, had a heart attack when she saw all these dirty boys coming into her house. So she made sure that we took a shower outside before we got in, and sure enough, he had a pair of trunks that fit us all. And we went swimming, and somebody said, "Matty, I didn't know you were rich." He said, "I'm not, my parents are." and that's the way he acted. Okay. Aydah Baker. Anybody know Aydah? I hope somebody does. Nobody?
I remember being in, any of these, I've got my yearbook looking at it, and any of them have Y teams and FHA and FBLA clubs. I remember all, but I didn't have a personal relationship with her, but I do remember her. She was kind of quiet, very serious about things. Beautiful smile, really pretty.
Right.
But any of these that have that on it, FDL, I don't know why we had to be trained to be homemakers, y'all. FHA, Future Homemakers of America. I came out of that class and I still couldn't cook. I don't know. But there were a lot of us in those clubs now. I don't know what we did in them, you were in them, but they were nothing. We all took it, I guess, because they thought we needed to. So they had love now, I can assure you.
Anybody else? Marvin Brooks. Who remembers Marvin Brooks? Go ahead.
He used to work for us, Marvin Brooks, after he retired from public service. He worked for us for 2 or 3 years. So he was a neat person. I think he ended up having a stroke or something. He used to play in a band, and he played with Ace Cannon a lot. So he was very talented. A lot of people didn't know it, but he really was.
Anybody else? Marvin Brooks.
Marvin worked for the county or city or somebody.
Public service.
Worked for the city or for the Public Service Commission. And the last time I saw him was on a fishing hole out on the levee south toward Hollywood Bluff. Had a little visit with him. Nice guy.
Elton Calhoun. You don't remember Elton?
Early Elton.
Somebody remembers Elton. I remember Elton. Elton was very successful. Go ahead.
I don't know him, and I'm ashamed that I did know him, because when you read his dash is impressive. Here's a guy that played football at Yazoo City and went to Holmes Junior College on football scholarship. In his seventh semester, he was going to continue playing football. So he asked his coach where could he go play and still get an engineering degree. And if I remember right, the guy told him to go to Louisiana Tech. And one of his special moments, he said in his deal that all filled out in 2014, was that his most favorite play was Terry Bradshaw. Y'all remember him, was quarterback, Louisiana Tech. And he scored, in 13 seconds left to go in the game. They scored a touchdown and beat Northwestern. Now, Elton was a center, so all you play the offensive linemen, you know, they're smart guys. But he wanted to go ahead and get his engineering degree. He did, and his dad ran a company down in Texas, I think Victoria, Texas. And he later bought that company. He went out and bought the company and built a nice business. I got to thinking about when opportunity comes up in life, and Elton was a Christian, loved the Lord, that the conversation he might have had with the Lord that says, all right, lead me, Lord, to what you want me to do. But I know he loved the Lord, and he and Ann opened the company up, and one of the things that Elton wanted to do was every morning, after he went to the computer, got the morning rains, he would greet every employee. Now that means that those employees that it meant something to them. It meant that you as an employee, you were important to that company. And that's impressive to me, that when you put your arms around people and you want to be a part of them, and you won't find many of that in today's world, in the corporate world. So that he would give himself to that. But then, that story didn't end there. Elton was Chamber of Commerce, I think, Man of the Year, a couple of years, and other awards. But what he did, he gave back to the community, to the young people there, and made them scholarships available to students to go to college. I wish I lived next door to him. Bill told you, you might know more about him than, but I know that I just impressed with his life, what he gave back. And to me, he represents what you said in the book, his dash, is long. I just wish I knew him better.
Thank you. Next, you remember Elton. He played ball with you.
We just moved here into Yazoo's senior year. That's why he only played 1 year of football, and then he got that scholarship
Holmes Junior.
to Holmes Junior after just 1 year of football. And
That's it. He played linebacker at high school. I forgot.
Well, Elton, on several occasions after we graduated from high school, came up to me and thanked me for the opportunity for him to make the first team defense as a linebacker. And the reason he got that opportunity is some football player from Vicksburg broke my nose for me. So I was playing offense and defense and everything, so they put Elton in to take my place on defense. And I said, Elton, anything for a friend. And if my nose meant that much to you, then I'm glad that happened. But I won't do it again.
Yeah.
His scholarship to Tech was a kicker and linebacker.
Right. Anybody else?
The only thing he put in his annual that he did, I think I shared this with Tommy, which to me, I didn't see another single person that put all, clubs you were in and this, and this. The only word he put was football, one word. I didn't see anybody else that had that. One word, football.
Ricky Carson.
Music.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Music, right? Wasn't he very talented?
He may have been, I'm sure it was. That's before we came to Yazoo City. And so Johnny Tennant, Ricky Carson, Josephine Coker, and I were all in Eden schools. And Ricky and Johnny and I got in trouble for talking, and they had a closed closet. And they'd make you go in there, that was your punishment. And they knew something about becoming Indian blood brothers and sisters, so they stuck something in our fingers, pushed blood out, and we loved that, and we were brothers and sisters. That was a harsh punishment. But he was great, loved him.
Anybody else?
I remember him well. He was kind of a short guy. Yeah, and had freckles. I just remember his being very pleasant. I don't just, he was just, but I remember him well.
Anybody else? Yeah.
I remember him too. I went to school. I was like Jenny for the evening in the little group and went to school, to church with him and everything, and he was great.
I started wondering with him on some of the water around him. He was a good friend.
Joyce Case. Joyce, Linda, Joyce Case. I think she went by Joyce. Casey. What do you know about Casey?
I just remember her as a friend, and we called her Casey, and you know, she passed away soon after school. She was, when she hurt or something in an accident before we got out of school.
She fell down the stairs,
Okay, yeah.
and she ended up in a wheelchair.
Right.
My daddy married her mother, so for a while she was my stepsister. But we were both like in our 20s. We've been young? Oh, we've been young. When we were in our 20s, when Daddy married her mom. Yeah. And that all happened from an accident at school. She fell down the stairs. I didn't know she fell down the stairs, but I mean, it messed her up bad. And in later years, she couldn't walk. She had a rough life. Larry Shelton. Y'all remember Shelton? I do. Anybody?
He used to work for the IRS. Remember that? Up in
I remember him going head first through Suzanne's sliding glass door. Halloween.
I didn't know about that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he went head first through Suzanne's sliding glass door. Is that what he said?
Yeah. We were throwing water balloons at the cars on the,
Did you push? Oh, I was not there.
How about Ellen Chisholm?
I know a story about her grandfather. They lived out Grandma Road, about 5 miles from town.
Where Connie's the mayor? No, Connie's the mayor of Grandma.
I'm not opposed to that.
So what, I didn't mean to interrupt you, what?
He didn't have a car, he had a mule and a wagon. And he was headed to town one day, and back then Grandma Road was gravel. And the road was a lot narrower than it is now. About halfway between town and his house, there was a sharp curve in the road, some high banks on the other side of the road. Mr. Chisholm was in the middle of the road coming toward town, and a butane truck was headed out of town. A little butane, and they lit up right in the curve. And the butane truck scattered Mr. Chisholm, the mule, the wagon, all different directions. No black car sitting around trying to help, somebody called the sheriff. The sheriff came out, and the mule was laying over the ditch kicking and hollering and all. The sheriff said, "What's the matter with the mule?" Somebody said, "Well, he got a broken leg, Sheriff." The sheriff took his pistol out, shot the mule in the head. He still had a pistol in the hand and walked over where Mr. Chisholm was down on the side of the road, all broke up and bleeding. He said, "What's the matter with you, Mr. John?" Mr. Chisholm said, "Sheriff, I never felt better than
Anybody else? Larry Clark. Anybody remember Larry Clark? I do.
William Clark.
Huh?
William Larry Clark.
William Larry Clark, yeah. He went by Larry, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
I didn't know his name was William.
But anyway, several years ago, we were at St. Dominic's with Larry getting a pacemaker, and they called this man. I kept looking at this man and said, I know that man from somewhere. And I didn't recognize his wife or the girl that was with him. And in a minute, they called William Larry Clark, and I said, oh, I knew that's who it was then. So I went over and talked to his wife, and I said, did he graduate from Yazoo City High School? And she said, yes, he did. And I said, I graduated with him. Well, anyway, this Larry and that Larry both wound up getting pacemakers at the same time. They were right across the hall from each other. So his wife and I got to be good friends.
Really?
Still keep in touch, so.
Didn't Larry play football with us for a while, Les?
Larry?
He said Gerald Moses was one of his best friends.
Okay.
He said he taught him to play football.
Okay.
He did say that.
Okay, I thought I remembered that. Anybody else? Yeah.
He lived across from my hardware store for years and years and years, and if our alarm would ever go off, I think Larry knew would be one of the first ones to call us. So we knew him well.
He was mechanically inclined?
He was just a neat person, and they were right across from my hardware, and the least little thing or something didn't look right, they'd call us.
Ricky Collins. Y'all remember him? He died early. He died early. Well, right out of high school.
I gotta say, very good friend. We got to know each other in junior high when we were in the band. Someone said earlier, I think, that he was very musically talented. He was. And I played trombone. He was in the regular marching band. He was in the jazz band. And then he graduated. He went to Mississippi College. He was going into the ministry as a worship leader and pastor for a church. And that fall of that year, he found out that he had cancer. He passed away in July of '65.
July, yeah, he died early, yeah, right out of high school.
Good friend.
Yeah. I remember that. Anybody else? Ricky?
Jim, you remember Richard was in the limo with us in New Orleans?
And?
Do you remember?
Do I remember? No. Hey, Scrap, I don't remember what I had for lunch, so don't feel bad. Okay, let's move on. Michael Curran.
And I didn't know him really well because we went to different high schools, but actually I got to know him more as adults because we would run into each other. He was just a funny man.
Les, you remember what Coach Jenkins called him? Called Michael Curran?
No.
Whistle britches. He had a name for everybody. And Michael Curran was whistle britches. He was a good guy. Did he take over his daddy's lumberyard? Is that what he, I didn't know what he did for a living.
He farmed some.
Mostly farming, I think.
Yeah.
He farmed?
Yeah. I bumped into him.
Oh, he was a rich man, like Charlie and you, huh? Okay. I thought he was a poor boy. He just, I didn't know he was a farmer. I thought, his daddy, he didn't, what happened to his daddy's lumberyard?
Burned down.
It burned down?
McGraw-Curran Lumberyard burned down early. Yeah, Michael and I and Rose, Marie, we all went to St. Clara's for the first several years. Michael and I played together all the time. Michael, Bobby McGinnis, all of us in that area. Charlie, yeah. Chuck Jordan.
Go ahead.
With a teeny tiny baby. I've seen him all my life. Then he married my roommate, and so I came out time, and it was really shocking when he got sick and went down so quickly, but he was always really gentleman, and he was a great grandfather, and his wife loved him dearly. And he's gone.
He was. Anybody else?
Varner, you're gonna have to stand up in the future.
Why?
Because all I can get is Elizabeth. You're right behind her.
Next time you talk, I'll stand up. All right, let's move on. Bobby Wayne DuBois.
Sorry.
What do you want to share about Bobby Wayne? Anybody?
Oh, I remember him. We were in the chemistry
had the labs, and, I remember him clearly. I mean, we weren't really good friends, but I can just see him walking down those lab tables till he found his place. But
Bobby Lane's brother was.
Bonnie, if you won't talk, stand up.
Joyce, he talk. No, I don't know. If he was a good guy, he hung around with us.
Stand up, Joyce. I forgot he can't see you on the camera. So stand up,
Okay, I
please.
don't want to be on camera.
I got you now. You're too late.
Good guys, he hung around with the group. All y'all remember that. And he was fun. Yeah, funny.
Didn't one of his uncle or somebody was wrong at school, at the school, his older brother, high school?
That one, I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was his older brother.
And his secret was that he was a legislature and a cooter farm. He raised turtles.
That was his brother, yeah.
That's what Radford used.
Yeah. Saber taught me in the 3rd grade.
That's Bobby Lane's, nickname was Cougar, wasn't it?
And Cooter, yeah, Cooter Newport. What I remember about him, I know when he came back here basically to die, and he moved out to Wolf Lake. Now, I was told that Dean went to see him just about every day. And I think Ray Shannon went to see him a lot. And I know other people tried to witness to him. Bob Shirley said that he called him and tried to witness to him, and he hung up on him. And I called him one day to talk to him, and he hung up on me. So I didn't get a chance to talk to him, and I don't know if he opened his mind to what was going on or not, but somebody else may know different. But he did. And I thought Dean was so, I mean, that was just phenomenal of her to go out there just about every day to take care of him. Because he had nobody to take care of him. Phenomenal, what we did. Not the cars, it's not the cars, the whatever, the cash, is how you lived and how you loved and how you lived your dash. That's what's important. Okay, how about Zudi Eldridge? Somebody knew Zudi. You did.
I remember she used to ride the school bus. Sometimes. She lived in Eden and she would ride the school bus for us. I do remember.
She was sweet and quiet, that's all
Really,
right.
really pretty smile. She had a beautiful smile. I saw a picture of her at one of the reunions that somebody was taking, and she was sitting down in a chair, and somebody was a guy was kneeled down by that chair. The picture just stuck with me because she had the most peaceful, happy face that you would see on anybody. It was like, I am so glad to be here. It's just wonderful because you could just feel that she was feeling comfortable with everybody that was there. And she was just looking out. It's just amazing. I have that picture. And I didn't know her that well, but I knew she was happy. And I don't think she lived much longer after that. And I guess that's her sister, Noreen. Yes. Yeah.
She and Noreen were cousins.
Cousins, okay.
So they were my mother and them were first cousins.
She was.
And she was always special to me.
William, do you want to say something? You stood up?
Well,
I
she
get
just
tired.
elbowed me, so I got to tell the story. My kids know it, my grandkids know it. 6th grade, I was sitting behind Judy, we were in the same class, down in Main Street Elementary, and I kept bumping the back of her chair when we were supposed to be doing a class assignment. And she finally had had enough of it. She took a pencil and went backwards like that, right into my left knee. And I still have a graphite mark.
Okay, John Foose. Anybody? Everybody knew John. Right?
Most changed at our first reunion.
Hey, he got arrested, didn't he? Or they stopped him anyway?
I don't know about that.
At
but
our
I
first
just mean
reunion.
They came back kind of as flower children, and he had been probably most likely, and not that he did succeed, I'm just saying it was just, I think he had a ponytail. Y'all remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I bet Karen, where's Karen? She could tell some stories.
I will. I wanted to, have y'all read this book? It's Factors from Pluto. It's about Laurie and John Foose and all those. But longer than anybody else. His name was Sims Luckett. And Richard Grant has befriended Sims Luckett. And they're out at Pluto. And all right, I'm just going to start right in the middle, and I cannot finish it, and I'll tell you the reason why I can't finish it, because I just can't. Anyway, because of the way John Foose was. But anyway, the Gold Magnolias arrived. They're way out in the country now. The Gold Magnolias is a little band. The Gold Magnolias arrived fresh from Pig Fest. Is that at state? Pig Fest? I'm not sure. And I introduced Sims to Martha's cousin Daniel. Daniel is the son of John. Anyway, it took Sims a moment to piece together Daniel's lineage. Foose, Foose, Foose. He said, aha, I know your daddy. And the next part can't read because they did something together that was a little sketchy. Read the book and you'll know.
Laura, you told me a good bit about him. Why don't you share with the class what you told me about John? If you don't mind.
Oh, I told you not to ask me.
Stand up, Mark.
What I told you was things I could tell about John, I can't tell in church. But I can read you one thing that a cousin of mine wrote about John after he passed away, and it was, I might get choked up, but here goes. He said, I haven't seen John in Caroline in ever so long, but that great big smile of his is forever fixed in my mind's eye. I'm absolutely certain that a band of jazz all-stars is playing as he strode through the pearly gates. Hugs.
I bought a CD he made about Whiskey River. It was good. It was great. And you were telling me that you thought he pretty much made a living through his music and making records. And that sort of, is that right?
He cut a few records, and I think mostly though he supported his son Daniel and kind of put him in touch with people that he knew that were involved in the music industry, and a lot of those contacts he made when they were living in New Orleans. And he wrote 2 books. He was a co-author of 2 different books, and one of them was Up from the Cradle of Jazz. I can't remember the name of the other one. But yeah, he knew a lot of those musicians down there. You know, he was constantly in contact.
Where is his wife?
Caroline.
I don't know where they lived.
They lived in Austin.
Austin.
And Austin is a big music place
Yeah,
too,
you
so,
get one.
he was able to, I'm sure establish more contacts there.
Anybody else? John Foose.
His son played with Lady Gaga.
Well, we used to see him out at Miss B's Steakhouse all the time. He would always come over and talk to Paul and I when he would come home. And he did have a book signing in the smokehouse one time, in our little event place in Yazoo City.
Anybody else? Donnie Frazier. Remember Johnny and Donnie? This is Donnie. Look.
Johnny was the little.
Donnie was the small.
Donnie was.
Anybody want to share something about Donnie?
I always enjoyed Johnny because he was not much taller than I was.
Then y'all would have loved him too.
When we had functions, he would ask me to dance.
Well, we thought Mouse didn't have a prayer getting in the military because he didn't weigh enough. And so he was free from the whole draft discussion going through college. Mouse was a different kind of guy. I spent a good bit of time with him in the right ways. But Mouse, well, Mouse died a long time ago. I don't know what else to say about that. Ruth, you were there, weren't you? Weren't you at the funeral? I thought Ruth was there.
Anybody else? Johnny Frazier, his brother. Tommy, you know Johnny Frazier well.
Yeah, Johnny and I used to play tennis a good deal, a lot, you know. He never would let me win. I don't think I ever beat him. But now the year he died, I'd taken my father to the Veterans Hospital, to the VA in Jackson, and I was fixing to push Dad onto an elevator. The elevator door was open, and Johnny walked out, and I stepped in front of him. He tried to go around me, and I stepped in front of him again and said, Johnny, Henry Reeves, you know. And we had a nice conversation. And 2 months later, I understand he passed away.
I heard he dropped dead on the streets of Atlanta. I don't know if that's true or not. Anybody know? Look, am I wrong or you just don't know? Anybody else? Tommy, you played ball with him.
Yeah.
He was a good ball player.
Played basketball with him.
Yeah, I knew Johnny since, I was at Annie Ellis, he was at Main Street, but, you know, he came over, we merged junior high, and he was, somehow we got roomed together at Mississippi State. I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but yeah, we roomed together as a freshman. And he, speaking of Johnny went through ROTC, got commissioned and did his overseas tour in Germany. Missed out on Vietnam and did Germany. And I think all in all, yeah, Johnny was a pretty good guy. Yeah, he's smart. He made, you know, good grades all through high school. I think many of us were in, he was in all our classes.
Anybody else? How about Dorothy? I think it was Dorothy Jane Maynard Guthrie. Did she go by Dorothy? Dorothy? That's what I thought. Who wants to say something about her?
Well, she was in the FHA club, so I know she was in there.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I used to walk to school with her son. We would walk, I think when we were in junior high, we walked to school together. She was always real sweet to us.
Sweet and shy.
She worked at the bank.
She worked at the bank? Anybody else? Jerry Harkins. Now, he just passed away. Just last month, within the last month. And somebody was telling me about him, so somebody here knows him well. I forgot who was telling me about Jerry. Was it
I lost track of Jerry. I didn't know he was in Yazoo City around somewhere or another. And I went into the bank one day and was talking to the young lady who was doing the bank business and asked her some questions. And she said her name was Renee Erickson. And she said her dad was Jerry Harkins. And it was, you know, there was a connection there. You know, I said, tell Jerry I said hi. She said she would. That's who I heard.
Mayor, you were the one telling me about it. You were the one telling me about Jerry.
Yes, he went to church at Calvary Baptist with my sister, he and his wife, and she knew them well in later life. I think he had major health problems. It seemed like he had a bout or two with cancer and maybe even some heart trouble.
Okay. Anybody else know him? Mary Joyce Henson. Is that the name she went by? I think she went by Joyce.
Mary Joyce Henson had the long black hair, real thin, very good. Real quiet, had a sister, Annie.
Anybody else? How about R.L. Holden? I knew R.L.
Really nice guy.
He was
I
nice.
can remember Jimmy Jungle
Yeah.
there. He worked, and time I go back home and visit my dad, I go by and see R.L. Just a really, he never changed when he was in high school. He just was really, I just always glad to see me, and I just really like R.L.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I remember his wife was a beautician, and she went to a beauty shop that I used to go to, and he was a meat market man. He worked in a meat market. Jackson, maybe Yazoo City.
I worked with RL on the road crew in Louise. And he taught me how to poke holes in the tire of the tractor. So you can get
Does he need to stand up? They need to stand up back.
I got it. I shift every now and then.
Okay, let's move on, guys.
My way, don't let David talk.
Some things are better not known. How about Kerry Jones? I think they called him Casey Jones. That's about the engineer that, drove the train. I don't think he drove a train. He was married to Carol Ann Suddy for a while. I remember that. You didn't know that? Yeah, she told me that, not him. Anybody else know Kerry Jones, Casey Jones?
I knew him. He used to come to our hardware store, and I remembered him, and Paul might not remember him a lot, but I think he worked on motorcycles too.
Oh, did he? I'd have liked him. He and I got along good.
He lived, don't you know, across from this shop back in there somewhere? But I remember.
Anybody else? Casey Jones, Kerry Jones. I know a lot of you knew Barbara Kelly. Go ahead, Everett.
Yeah, Barbara was my neighbor. From the time we were probably 3, 4 years old, so I mean, a long time. In first grade, she was my girlfriend, and I had to fight some guy who thought he was moving, I thought he was moving in on me. I can't remember his name because he moved out of town the next year. I think he couldn't take that.
He was too bad
But Barbara was really great. She was a stewardess for years and years with Delta and retired. And she actually had some bad things went on in her life. Her older sister died young from breast cancer, and lost love and one thing or another. But she was a genuine person. I still miss her.
Barbara was a master gardener, and we connected, and Macy and Barbara and I were kind of a threesome while we were in junior high and high school. High school I kind of was a twosome with Mike Highball. But I remember Barbara and I spent a lot of time together when we both went to the same church, so I knew her there. But she was funny. I went to her funeral. Macy and I drove down and went to her funeral, and she really was celebrated as a master gardener. She had a real unfortunate death. I mean, it was just kind of an accident. She fell and hit her head, and no one was around to kind of help her. So.
Thank you, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she didn't. It was an accident.
Barbara was quite, I thought, bright. In later days, for some reason, because of these get-togethers, she and I ended up having a fair number of email discussions on lines of theology and philosophy. And she would give and take like the best of them. But yeah, she fell and hit her head, and great surprise, living alone. Love Barbara, didn't
Mignon, you remember what Barbara said when she rode in the car with us and we went to the same thing that Bevo did at the Presbyterian Church? What did she say, you remember?
I can't remember.
She was hot with Bevo, and he knew that, and smoke was coming out of her ears. I mean, she said, because Bevo said something about, some of us won't be here when we have the next reunion. We were fairly young back then. Well, Bevo was so negative. I can't believe he said that. Boy, she was getting with it. You don't remember that, Mignon? Because she rode with us.
I remember.
You remember that? Okay. I don't know if she talked to you, but she sure talked to Mignon and me. How could he be so negative? We're going to still be around. Well, didn't work out that way, did it? Anybody else?
I got to know Barbara when we were in a play together. It was Lucy Vaughn and Barbara and me, and I don't even remember, I was with some kind of pilgrim play, and high school, but very opinionated. She would take you on in a heartbeat.
I probably shouldn't tell you this from my wife, but I am anyway. Barbara told me one time, she said when she was dating, I think she said she had to be in at 9 o'clock. Had to be in bed at 9 o'clock or something, 8:30, I don't know. And I said, well, Barbara, that'd be fine with me if you want to go a little earlier, whatever, I'm okay with that. And anyway, we had a good laugh about that. She was a good girl. Her and Mignon got to be pretty close friends. Now she was a little different, but she was a good person. Anybody else? How about Mike Knopf? Excuse me, go ahead.
I remember she stayed in our hotel at one of our class reunions a few years ago, and she wrote us a sweet note that she enjoyed.
She's a very caring person. Very smart. What about Mike Knott? Mike Knott and Bob Knott were cousins. Y'all remember Bob Knott? And Mike, I think Mike flunked the grade, didn't he? I mean, he didn't really graduate with us, but somehow or another we got him on here. But anybody want to talk?
Bob not graduated with us.
Yeah, Bob, but this is Mike. Bob's still alive, to the best of my knowledge, unless somebody knows different.
He was in grammar school with us.
Mike?
And he is.
Janie Mann. I'm with you, Ruth. I can't remember.
Jamie, man.
Janie Mann, what? I can't hear you. Can you stand up?
Pretty blonde.
Joyce knows about Jane. Quiet
She was smart.
We got Joyce
Very
first.
smart. She was extremely intelligent. And you just knew that she was gonna have the best grades on everything. You know, she's real smart. She transferred from Benton School to Yazoo City Schools in the 9th grade. I remember that.
Dorothy McGee. Joyce, you know Dorothy well.
Who?
Dorothy McGee. Joyce, you know her.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about, I mean, I like Dorothy. She was kind of quiet and reserved at times. She was very pretty. She had an older sister that I think kind of, I hate to say run the household. I think her parents were older, if I remember correctly. But she was a pretty smart girl.
Yeah.
But she was pretty. She moved to the coast and never could make connection with her. So she just kind of faded away for us.
I remember her in elementary school. And
She
Sharon,
was
little.
Main Street, yes.
But I don't know anything about her after.
Look up on a steep hill. It's a real steep hill. I don't know the name of the hill. Maybe it was steep. Anybody know? It was close to the high school. But it was, I mean, it just went like that. It had a sister named Ivy. Does anybody know what she died from? I don't know this, but her sister Ivy is really, after she died, really got serious about drugs. Talked about how she hated drugs and all that kind of stuff, which made me think maybe, not saying that because I don't know it, but that's what she talked about, was Ivy, her sister, was talking about drugs. I saw a picture of, she put a picture of Dorothy on Facebook. I mean, Dorothy was gorgeous. She looked, and this was probably, she was 60 or more, and she looked just as good, if not better, than high school. So, and I think she worked at a casino on the coast. Pretty sure that's what she did. Linda Cates Maynor, M-A-N-O-R. Linda Cates Maynor. You know her people?
Curly hair, I remember that now.
That same one as
I think she's
Linda
older.
Joyce.
Did I already do her?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was Linda.
Is that Joyce? Cates? Maybe I got them messed up and I apologize to you. All right, let's skip that one. Let's go to Joe Martin. Anybody remember Joe? Joe got killed real early. Yeah.
I remember Joe, and I do remember going to his funeral. Yes, he shot himself accidentally, and we were seniors, I think.
Yeah, we were seniors when he died.
And I remember Joe was real quiet and real sweet, and it was just a shock.
I was in, he lived down the street from me, well, he lived in Jackson Avenue and 15th. And anyway, yeah, we were in Cub Scouts together. We lived in
The
nice.
end of Jackson and 15.
He was 4 houses down from me.
Himself and crossing the fence, barbed wire fence or something, he fell on the shotgun. I think he was really quiet, but really good guy.
And his daddy worked for the wildlife. His daddy was a gun safety expert, and I'm sure Joe was really, up on that. But somehow or another, the gun went off and killed him.
Very, very nice guy. Quiet.
Frances Miller.
Frances was my first cousin, and she was a real sweet girl. She had a really sad life. She was in a nursing home probably the last 5 or more years of her life. So she had a real sad life.
Anybody else know her?
We all lived in the same neighborhoods. I remember as kids playing like hide and go seek and things like that together. Rowing, throwing rocks and things in the swings. But yeah, she was a sweet person.
Well, I'm gonna ask Ruth to tell me which one is which. There was a little rock throwing going on, right, Ellis?
Right.
And I got hit with a rock in the back of the head.
Ruth did it.
And I don't know if it was Francis or Ruth.
Ruth did it.
There's an alley that was between those two streets, yes, Mark.
I'm gonna tell on myself now. The guy I worked with on the farm, we'd had a really disgusting day on the farm. So I said, where are you going tonight? He said, I'm going up to the VFW. So I said, well, let me go with you. I need a drink anyhow. Went up to the VFW, and there were people dancing on the floor. And there was a table with a few chairs around it, and this guy was acquainted with some of the people there. And I just walked up and plopped down in one of the chairs. The music quit, and this young lady came over and said, you got my chair. I said, and she sat down in my lap. And I said, well, let's get acquainted. I'm Henry Reeves. She said, I'm Francis Miller Distich. I said, oh my goodness, you're not. I gave her a chair. That's the last I saw of her. She was a sweet girl. She was a nice girl.
Okay, yeah, you all knew Gerald Moses. Anybody want to talk about Gerald? I'm sure everybody wants to talk about Gerald. That's fine. Who wants to start out?
Campaign manager when I ran for office my senior year. And we lived pretty close to each other, so I saw him a lot. And we were pretty good friends. However, there was kind of there was a rule in our family that we couldn't date Catholics. So, and that's unfortunate because I think Gerald and I could have made a nice couple. But anyway, yeah, he was a very, very, very special guy.
And Tommy can attest to this because we played baseball together, but I was a third baseman. And whenever Gerald would come up to bat, y'all thought I was playing left field. Because I wasn't going to stand anywhere close to 9 feet from him.
Tommy, you knew him well.
Oh, yeah. I was way
Baseball
back.
and basketball.
Yeah, I got to talk about Gerald. You got to think about this, that I think we were like 9 years old. And Sam Nicholas was our baseball coach. And Little League, let's play with Kimmy Kid, the downflows would win almost every year. And just, but Gerald, I can't remember exactly, he was cousin or kin to Sam Nicholas' family there. And of course, they named the Little League field there, you see the Sam Nicholas field. He was an outstanding coach, gave a lot of his time. But there, one day at practice, Gerald played third base and shortstop, 9 years old. You know, awesome athlete. He was lazy though. And none of us remember that because when he got in high school, he was definitely focused on what he wanted to do. But Sam couldn't get him to do anything on the field. He was just lazy. And I was catching. And so Sam Nicholas told Gerald, you get back there and get the equipment on, and you're going to be the catcher. Now, you know, he signed a pro contract with Boston Red Sox as a catcher. But he was, I was over his house so many times, he just easy going. Had a little Beetle car, you know, you take all the kids in that little Beetle. But I could never seen anybody hit the ball further than Gerald did. If you think about the Little League field, it was 180 feet down the lines, 200 feet in the center. And we had the light wires way above there. And we had a street, and behind that street was railroad track. There's nothing for Gerald to hit it over the light wires and over the railroad track. Yep. And all of us, the other guy, we could barely clear the fence if everybody got a home run. But he was an outstanding athlete. And then one game that he had so many concussions playing professional baseball as being a catcher that it really had an impact on his life. I can remember we playing, I think playing with Central. I think we were sophomores. And at those days, you didn't have old mask was just two straps in the back. And the batter swung the bat around and hit Gerald right in the back of the head. You could hear that sound of a wood bat hit his head, his skull. Take him off the field, 12 stitches, but he had so many things like that. If you think about his athletic ability was just monumental, but he had such a tender heart. When you read the book that Tiki has, that his career with the Boston Red Sox, his 10 years with the Boston Red Sox, but his career after that, what he gave back, that's what he remembered for, what he gave back. That wouldn't help anybody. And all the players that he played with, when they retired, they remember Gerald because of what he did after his baseball career. And that's his dash is what's important. Super guy.
Gerald is not in the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. And me and his sisters and a lot of other people tried to get him in. But I think that because he left and really never came back to Mississippi, that's the reason. But we have written letters, we have talked to, I know people who have influence there, we've talked to them, but he should be, and he's not.
Absolutely.
Well, I got to tell one more about Gerald. Not only was he a great catcher, but a pitcher, he was a great pitcher. In the 1959 Yazoo City Dixie Youth baseball team was won by, the state championship was won by Yazoo City. And Les was on that team, Gerald, Wayne Finley, Butch Gary. But Gerald was an unbelievable pitcher. We won the championship, we go to Lakeland, Florida, and we played baseball there. And we was in the Detroit Tigers training camps where we all housed there. And I forgot what team we played, but we got beat like 2-0 because we couldn't score. But Gerald and Haley, they were just awesome pitchers. And it was just fun to be with Gerald. But he was not only a good catcher, but an outstanding pitcher.
Tommy was a pretty good pitcher too.
Yeah.
Gerald on the internet.
Go ahead, Bebo.
Les is talking about here. Les is talking.
Okay, let Bebo go and then Les. Go ahead, Bebo.
Oh, lots of things. Gerald was the athlete. Scrapper and I were not. Gerald got what? Remember we had crutches at one point. What did he break? Broke his ankle.
Tore his ACL.
I tore his ACL. I wanted to have crutches so badly. So I could be like Gerald because I knew I couldn't play like he did. But what did Gerald do? Right out of high school, he was scholarship.
Yeah.
Play at
Scholarship, Alabama, and Ole Miss.
Football.
Yeah, football scholarship, Alabama and Ole Miss.
Yeah. What was the little story about him? Somebody threw a wild pitch and he stood across the plate and put it out of the park. You know, it didn't matter where you threw the ball, he was going to hit the thing. Well, all those things are sort of legend, I think, but Ruth and Barr and I had opportunities a little bit late in his life when he would come here, he'd fly here to visit with his sister, to visit with the family. And Gerald had, if I correct the word, pronounce the word correctly, aphasia? Aphasia, thank you. He lost the capacity to make words. And he would sit there and just try to make a sentence, and he just couldn't do it, and it got worse and worse, of course. But in those late days, he was very, very Elizabeth, Roman Catholic religious. I mean, he was almost consumed with it, but in his best way possible, he would talk about Jesus, and he would talk about praying and talk about things like that. He became extremely spiritually minded toward his death, and I really appreciated that about him. But he was the athlete's athlete and became a very spiritually minded guy toward the end of his life.
Les, you want to say something?
We played in that huge baseball field, semi-pro field. I'm sure you remember how big it was.
Yeah.
It was, nobody hit home runs out of that field. Nobody.
Talking about the American Legion field?
Yeah.
I remember.
The home runs was 2 hit by Gerald Moses.
Well, I remember. Yeah. There was the Babe Ruth All-Star game. First time Gerald got up, he hit it over the fence on the rise. They intentionally walked him the rest of the game. They didn't care who was on the base.
He's the only one that could get close. We couldn't get him close to it.
Les, they keep interrupting you if you want to say. I don't know if you want to say anything or not. It's up to you.
You can look Gerald up on the internet, and it's real good write-up about his career and everything. And our senior year, he was the #1 quarterback prospect for college in the state. And Alabama wanted him to come and play and take, gosh, I can't think of who played.
Name
And, but he switched to baseball. He did a lot of charity work, working with kids after he retired, baseball camps, all sorts of things. So he gave back an awful lot after he retired from sports.
Reed?
Gerald was my cousin, and do you know that he still holds the record for the youngest player to ever hit a home run out of Fenway Park?
Rick?
When he came to the coast to the reunion, he went to Mass with me and his wife, and the priest that day was from Boston, and he was so thrilled to meet Gerald because he had seen him play. It was really a highlight for me. But it was like Bebo said, those last year or so, he would call you up and he would try and talk to you, and he could form some words, but not a whole lot. But he did have a really, really deep faith.
Mignon, you remember the story when we were having dinner with Gerald and Carol at one of the reunions at the country club? And remember the story of how he met her? You remember that? You don't? Okay, I do. I got a better memory than her, apparently. Anyway.
Wasn't she an airline attendant and
Yeah.
they met on
Yeah.
a plane?
Yeah.
And she wouldn't give him the time of day. Well, this is what they told us. And he kept calling her and she wouldn't respond and she ignored it, and then finally they got together.
Well, the main thing is she came up there and she said, "Hello, Mr. Moses," because she knew his name because it was on the card. "Do you need anything?" And he said, "No." "Do you know who I am?" "Yeah, you're Jerry." They called him Jerry. "You're Jerry Moses." He said, "Yeah, but do you really know who I am?" She said, "I just told you. You're Jerry Moses." "Well, I play for the Boston Red Sox." She said, "The Boston who?" So she wasn't too impressed with him, but apparently he did impress her, and they had a wonderful marriage. She's a phenomenal lady. I really like her. Anybody else? Yeah.
I just want to say, I love Jerry. He was always super, super nice to me. And I have a memento, and if y'all remember back when we had the reunion at the country club in Yazoo, I think it was one of our first big gatherings. He told me he bought this and picked it out himself. A thumbprint Santa, and believe it or not, it made it through our tornado, and I still have it, and I'll always treasure it.
Anybody else? Betty Perry. Anybody know Betty Perry? I don't. Nobody? Laverne?
We remember her, we just, I'm here just behind me, and we remember her, I think she had a really good voice and sang in the choir.
Really?
I remember that about her, yeah.
Now, who was the singer? We haven't got any singers in it? Sure, we got some singers in here. Lois, was you a singer?
No.
No. Me either. They paid me not to.
I think she went on to be a teacher, PE teacher, PE. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's what she did.
Okay, Gertie Pig. Excuse me, you want to say something about it? Go ahead.
Can we have a timeout?
Sure. Sure. Let's